Hello, Ayla. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be with you in London.
Oh.
For you have a show tonight in Grand Junction. That's right.
Yeah.
You're on tour,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a pleasure because I remember when I heard your voice the first time. It was on a development internship, like a retreat, could I say?
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard the song Vuela con el viento, it just like break my heart in a good way. But like I was feeling, wow, that's amazing. And when I discovered your music after, I was, wow, that's so beautiful. That's really beautiful. So that's why I wanted to interview you today. It's just to share to my community your music and who you are behind the music and who are Ayla at the end. So that's why I'm really happy. So my first question will be, imagine I invite you to a party with my friend and I say, oh, this is Ayla, she's a singer from UK. And my friend are curious, so they will ask you, oh, what kind of music are you doing? What could you say?
Do you know, I really find this question quite uncomfortable when people ask me this. What genre is your music? Something in me just kind of goes like, I think it's my resistance to putting myself into a box, because actually, you know, what is a box? Like, a box never is really what something is in its essence, because we're so unique, right?
Yeah.
And I think the fact that what kind of music, the kind of music that is coming through me, maybe there isn't really a box that exists for this yet that's recognized kind of in the mainstream. You know, people try and say, oh, it's world music, or it's folk music, or it's new age music, and none of those things feel right for me. Actually, often what my answer is, I go, it's Ayla music. Like, the genre is myself, basically. It's me. But, you know, to answer your question, to like try and not be difficult about it, it's, you know, I say it's like it's healing music. Maybe that's what feels most resonant for me. It's music that comes from my heart and my soul, and comes really for my own healing, and comes with prayers for healing. It's healing music, maybe.
It's funny when you say that, because it's I used to sing when I was younger, and I remember that sometimes you know, like people were when I was working with, they was telling me, you have to be you when you do music. It's like when I was younger, but it was like, oh, I tried to be that people like my music, but I was not really me. And what you say, it's like, it comes from my heart. It's Ayla music. It's not like a typical music, but it's you. When you were young, what kind of child you were?
Oh, wow.
A musician child?
Yeah, I mean, music was always part of my life. I don't remember as a child necessarily feeling like, you know, it wasn't my dream, for example. As a child, it wasn't my dream, I'm going to be a singer or a this. My dream was I wanted to be a vet when I was a child. I just really loved animals, and I loved being outside. I was quite wild. I was always hurting myself. I spent a lot of time outside making dens and, you know, being in the mud, and I was quite a wild, quite feral, you know. My parents brought me up in a way that really allowed me and my brothers and sisters to just be very freely who we were. We were allowed to be noisy. We were allowed to make a mess. We were allowed to be outside. We were allowed to be naked, you know, like just being free children. It's so easy in our culture now, isn't it, to control children or think that they have to be a certain way. And I was really given a lot of space to be creative. If I didn't want to go to school, I remember this. If I said, Mum, I don't want to go to school, she'd say, that's fine. And she'd bring out all the art, like the pens and big rolls of paper. She used to put them outside, like on a big piece of wood, big rolls of paper and pots of paint, and I just used to stay at home and paint and be creative and express myself in the ways that I did as a child.
I love it. I love it because it's really like, it's again, it was coming from you. You are not supposed to do things. You have to, and everything. Maybe it gives you some freedom in a way, the freedom that you express now. But you are listening some music when you were young.
My mum always used to put music on. There would always be music in the house, and she used to put music on when we would go to sleep. So I remember there's this lady, Lorena McKennett. I don't know if you know, it's this Celtic harp. And my dad used to listen to, what's the guy who wrote Hallelujah? Oh. Leonard Cohen.
Yes.
And I don't remember actually, but there was always music in the home.
Oh. I think I heard that you are like Disney songs.
Oh yeah. That's it. I used to sing that. Yeah, I have a distinct memory of being in my home and singing my heart out, but they would be Disney songs, like songs from Cinderella, or I used to be cleaning the home. There were so many children in my house. We had to all really help, and I remember, cleaning the floor or whatever, and pretending I was Cinderella and singing my heart out about when my prince would come. And I always loved to sing. I always loved to be quite loud, actually. I think I was quite loud.
I have like a small gift for you, and it's just over there. If you can take it, maybe it will remind you some times before. It's you, and it's a gift also for your child.
Oh, it's Simba.
Yeah, and you're a wild woman, so Simba.
That is so sweet. I used to cry when I used to watch this movie.
Yeah,
that's the only thing when the dad dies. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sit here with me.
For
the rest of the interview.
I was thinking about Simba and Lion King when I listened to your music, and what you said right now, to be wild. I'm a wild woman. I used to be wild when I was young, like to be connected to the nature. It's like you grew up in countryside, right?
Kind of like semi, not really. It wasn't wild nature. It was outside of the city, but it was quite tame.
Oh. And also, I just thinking like you wanted to be a vet.
Yeah.
You can take care of Simba.
My son will love Simba.
How old is he?
He's 4.
He's 4. Oh.
Yeah.
So after, I know like there is like a trip who changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
Way after, I guess. But it's before going on this trip, what was the plan of your life? Did you have like a plan? I mean, you wanted to be a vet, but after, did you before to be a singer? What was your life?
Before that, I was planning on going to university to study international relations and anthropology. I was very interested in human rights, and kind of I had a very strong sense of justice and kind of care for humanity and for the animals and the plants, and in my teenage years at school, I became very active. I became quite a kind of young activist, was going to protests and just was involved in bringing campaigns and issues into the school and speaking about them and doing projects about them and projects with the community. I really had a sense. I remember, it's so classic, young, inspired, enthusiastic person who's like, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to go out there and I want to just be part of change and part of seeing more justice and more balance and more harmony out there. And for me, the way I understood that at that time was to go into maybe human rights law. I considered being a lawyer, and I wasn't sure. I just knew I was very interested in human beings and kind of politics and social issues and environmental issues. And I also knew I was very creative. I always had these kind of both parts to me. And actually at that age, I was making music, but I also was very creative with my hands. I loved making, like, not so much an artist, but more like a crafts person. Like I made baskets and I worked with wool and was dyeing things with plants, like the natural, the old ways. Something there really touched me already from a young age. So I made a promise to myself. I went traveling for a year. I finished school. I went traveling the world. I said, I want to see the world. I went to various countries and worked a little bit with children and like NGO projects. And then I was like, I'm going to do a year of art. You can do something here called Art Foundation, which is what you would do before you study art. So it's a year where you do every kind of different art there is. I was like, I'm going to do that, nourish the artist in me, and then I'm going to go study, very intellectual course at university. I went and did this year of studying art. Was so amazing for me, so creative, and was playing a lot of music while I was there. And basically I got to the end of this year and it just was so clear for me, like, Ayla, that's not for you to go and do 3 years studying intellectual. I kind of really began to see through the prescribed pathway that we're given, right? Of like, you do this and then you study and then you'll get a job and then you'll get a mortgage and then you'll get a house, and that's step by step. Like something in me just kind of went, I don't think I have to, I don't think that's really what I need to do. And in that moment, I also found that place in me that went, I'm just going to give it a go. I'm going to just make music for a while and see what happens. But I never really thought about it like long term. I didn't approach my life like that. It wasn't like, I'm going to make a career out of music. It was more like, it just was so easy for me to follow my wild heart. It was more that feeling like, all I know is right now, this is what I'm going to do. And I did it in a very wild way. I mean, my friend, then we lived in a van and we went traveling around England and busking in the streets and just following our flow and our feeling and our inspiration, and the doors going where the doors were open, and just saying yes and seeing where it led us.
I interviewed a guy, it's a mentalist in France, and it was like 3 weeks ago, and he told me that he don't understand why people are so focused sometimes with objective, because you don't see the opportunities that you can get when you just listen what's happening in your life. And sometimes he said when you are too focused on one thing, you don't really see that maybe if you follow the flow, you will change your life with small things will happen in your life. You see what I mean? It's a bit like that you've done in a way.
I totally see what you mean. It's like with hunter's vision. Hunters say like, it's important that you have your eye on something, right? That you kind of have a direction and you have a goal, you have something that you're aiming for, but it's also important that the whole time your awareness is also paying attention to anything. So you think you might be aiming for that deer, but like a rabbit runs that way, and then you be ready to respond. And I see life a little bit like that, because if we just sit back and go like, I have no intention and I have no vision and I have no direction, we can also get a little bit, perhaps we can get a little bit lost. And if we're too focused, then we miss. It's that like tunnel vision. We miss the gifts. I mean, life is, we all know, everyone will know this from our experience, it's so full of unexpected surprises and twists and things happening just so differently from how we think. And often when we expect something to be a certain way, it's quite classic that things are not as we expect, are they? It's unpredictable. That's the nature of this universe.
You were like how old? sometimes my English it's not perfect, but at least I think you understand me.
I understand you.
No, but at what time? I can't say the word. I mean, when did you decide to go to South Africa? I guess it was your first big
South America.
South Africa, South America. It was your first big trip, right?
Mm-hmm. I decided. I think I was 21, and it was after a phase in my life I'd been. I'd just gone through a very, 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 like a classic dark night of the soul. Many things had happened, and there was a real inner death. I was really shedding my skins. I actually had stopped playing music for that time. Things had become really... I'd become to feel so uncomfortable with the settings in which I was sharing my music, which at that age and that point in my journey was like pubs and bars and, you know, open mic nights or just doing a little concert in a pub somewhere where people kind of come to listen, but they mostly come to drink, right, and to socialize. And I would be singing in these spaces, sharing my heart, which is what I always did. That was the only way I knew how to make music, and that's why I was making music, because it was a very deeply personal, intimate, vulnerable place of myself that I was expressing, and it just felt so wrong. I remember coming home and lying on my bed after concerts and just crying because it felt so heartbreaking to be in these spaces that were not safe. You know, it didn't feel safe. It wasn't safe really to be sharing. It wasn't received. I guess when I say safe, it's like I wasn't really being received in the depth in which I was sharing. It wasn't matching that. So I just went like, I'm not doing this anymore. In combination with, you know, there was a very strong internal process that was happening in me that was questioning everything to the point of like, I just don't know. I remember going like, I just don't know. I don't know who I am. The classic. You know? I just don't know who I am. Even like, I just don't know what food I like. I don't know what everything needed to die. I really needed to go into this kind of abyss, you know, dark, empty space. And from that place of, it was quite a despairing, painful time. Something in me knew that I needed to do something quite radical. Like I needed to kind of really step out of my reality and my life and the limitations of that as a young woman. Even though I had traveled quite a bit in England and Europe, and I still felt like there's so much more and I don't know what it is. There's more and I don't know what it is, and I don't really know how to find it. And then I heard from a friend who had traveled in Mexico with this group of people with horses, like a traveling circus, very wild, kind of in the nature. And I just went like, that's what I need to do. You know, like when something is just so clear and it's so illogical, it's not a mental decision. It's so strong. It's like the body just moves in that direction. And it was that feeling. And I went with it. I followed that feeling and went to Mexico.
Intuition, right?
I think it's intuition. And they say, I remember listening to someone speak about intuition. They say the moments when something doesn't logically make sense, like that's when you know it's intuition, particularly. If your mind can make sense of it, then, you know, like, yeah. But if your mind is going, none of this makes sense, like go with that feeling, because there's something deeper there that's speaking to you that the mind can't make sense of. So yeah, I did it. I jumped, and it was, that was a hugely pivotal moment of my life to take that. You know, suddenly like the river of my life just went like whoosh. And this journey in South America.
What did you do?
Well, I initially traveled with this group.
Yeah.
We traveled with horses. I think we were about 20 horses, 15 people. We traveled and lived with the horses. We had no maps. We had no plan.
Sounds crazy.
It was crazy. It was really, it was really wild. And speaking about myself as a wild child when I was younger, this experience, it was like I could really set free the wild animal. We are animals. We're wild animals, ultimately, like the essence of who we are. We like to think that we're human beings and we're separate from the wild world and the animal world, but actually our nature, we are a wild animal. We just become very tame and very, built up our cage in our world and all the blessings that can bring. But it's also, I think I really needed to experience myself really free and really feral. And we slept every single night just on the earth, in the nature. We bathed in the rivers, we cooked on the fire, we just slept there with the horses. We didn't go and stay in hotels or anything. So we just lived with the horses the whole time. More horses than there were human beings, and it was I could never describe what that experience was. It was very difficult also. It was hard. It was rough. Physically it was rough, and emotionally quite intense, looking after these animals and the challenges and keeping everyone healthy and keeping the animals healthy and enough food and being in the dry season. And it was quite an intense experience, but I found something very deep in myself that I think I'd always sensed her, the wild animal in me.
I often say that traveling could be an open door of something bigger inside us. This kind of intuition that you had, I had it to go when I was a bit stuck in my life, and I was on my sofa at home, and I like a flash, like, you should go to India to help people because you're not useful. What you're doing in Paris, it's not useful. And it was not it was not logic to think about it. I was making music, I was working as a journalist, and I had this perfect life in Paris, and to quit everything and go to India was not like a logical things to do. When I said to my friend, I will go to India doing voluntarism in slum, they were like, I'm not sure it's a good idea. But I felt it, and it was like, I will do it. And I just left, and it changed my life. The same. It was rough, it was difficult, but it gave me something that I could have had if I would have stayed in Paris. So do you think like traveling, I think you do, but do you think like traveling gives you some keys to open doors sometime in your life when you're stuck?
For me it definitely did. I definitely don't want to say that traveling will be the answer necessarily. It's so dependent on where we are in our life and what we really need, like what key is really needed to open what we're working with in that moment. Like, I'm in a phase now where being more still and really just connecting to my roots and being with the land in a quiet way, and especially being with my homelands, is the key that I need. But there were many moments in my life, and like particularly that journey was a massive key that opened a very, very big door. And I think sometimes there is just the element of stepping out of our everyday life and our rhythm, and in doing that actually stepping out of our kind of limitations of the way that we think and the way that we see things and what we believe is possible, and the relationships that we have and the dynamics that we play out and the culture that we're in. Like, we're so massively influenced. Of course, it's very natural to just be our whole inner world and our inner process to be influenced by what we're doing, what conversations we're having, what what we're receiving, what input is there, and by kind of just stepping fully out of it and into something totally new, I certainly experienced it gave me the opportunity to kind of really start afresh and experience myself in a totally new way. Like to be, just for a start, to be around nobody who knows you, right? You must have experienced that in India. Like not a single person knows who I am. They don't know my habits. I don't have a history with them. I'm a totally new person, and it kind of gave me an opportunity also to then like become or like expand my edges that might have been more difficult for me to do so if I'd just stayed here. And then of course what you meet, I mean, when you travel to a place like India, it's an absolutely different world in every single way.
Yeah.
No, like almost every single way. And this kind of just blows open so many boxes or doorways in ourselves, you know, that just, when I went to India, I really was like, this place is blowing me open. It was so extreme. It's so radical there, isn't it? You know, you just walk down the streets like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing here. Sometimes not in a good way. It can be quite uncomfortable. But yeah, there's moments where I think that kind of shaking things loose is necessary and can be very, very powerful to move on to our next phase, our next learning.
And when did you release your first album?
Well, I when I was really young, I did make a couple of albums, but I don't consider them really.
Yeah, because I just you released 3 albums, but before you did a lot of music with people. You work with I don't have the name in mind, but it's not like you. It's not like you just say, oh, I want to release my album and it's done and it's easy and everything. You worked before a lot. It started before.
Yeah. I was recording music since I was maybe 17 or 18. But nobody knows. They're like in a secret box somewhere, you know, that no one can hear anymore. But there was various CDs before that, and I think it wasn't until then I came back from South America when I was maybe 20. How old was I when I came back? 24 or something. Then I kind of took that next step of like, I'm going to make something that I feel is, begin to really share with the world. It was after that journey and after all that journey brought me, which was this whole big rebirth, and I discovered so many things that were new, you know, meeting indigenous cultures and ceremonies and plant medicines and meeting the amazing nature. And I began to sing again during that journey. So I stopped singing for maybe a year, and then I began to sing again, and then new songs were coming and a kind of new feeling, and then that became the music which I then began to release.
The same, follow the flow, I guess, in a way, like experimentation of things and to find what you want, and nothing just arrive like ready, like I know what I want to do, but it's you say often like it's a journey. You know, it's not like you don't have the answer straight. Sometimes you have to think about the things. You have to work on yourself. It's not so easy. And I think we are like, I don't know how to say in English, involving. We have a kind of personal evolution. We are not the same person at 20 and at 30 and 40 and etc. Do you feel this change in you, like all the changing coming?
Always. And actually my music is a reflection to me of how I'm changing and what I'm moving through, and in the ways that I'm growing, the ways that I'm letting go, the things that I'm healing. It's this amazing way, you know, to look back at the songs is like an audio version of my journey, because what I sing about is is really like my very deep places, my very deep processes, my prayers, really, you know, my prayers of my life and my human experience. And so I can see, not only can I see it in the, you know, the sound, the kind of feeling of the songs or the lyrics, but quite literally in my voice. I can hear already since my last album, I can hear how my voice has changed. And I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. Like the voice is the sound of the journey, actually, and the sound of where I'm at in my journey of being a human being, which, like you say, I don't believe that we arrive somewhere and go like, I think it's all finished now. I can't imagine. Maybe we do. I don't know. But I think it's eternal. There's always something new, and we're always learning. And
there is a song that I love, that I really love. I was in Brittany, in France, where in my hometown, and I love to walk on the beach and listening music. And last summer, like every year, I have like one singer, one album who just were with me during a summer. And you were with me last summer. I was listening, not one album in particular, but the three of them. And I remember to be on the beach and listening this word. It's the song "Thundering Horses." and just I just saying the lyrics, and you will tell me what you think about it. You wrote it, but you said, "There is an ocean inside of me, and sometimes I feel like I'm a sailor. There is an ocean inside of me, and sometimes I feel I'm at the mercy of the tempest. There is an ocean, and sometimes my sails are full. I soar with the wind and I reach for the moon. There's an ocean inside that reminds me I'm in the hand of the gods." An ocean inside me. What do you think about it?
It's really beautiful, actually, to hear those lyrics. I don't sing this song anymore. Haven't sung this song in many years now. And I wrote that song when I was in the Sacred Valley in Peru, in the Andes, in the mountains there. And I was working a lot with the medicines, with ayahuasca, like drinking a lot of medicine, going to a lot of ceremonies, going very, very, very deep. That was the first moment of my life. That was when I met the plant medicines and met those traditions, and was there with this beautiful community of people who really held each other. And yeah, I mean, like I say in the lyrics, it was like I suddenly was thrown into this ocean of myself, you know, feeling such big emotions, such big experiences, big feelings from my life, from my childhood, like meeting all of it, this kind of feeling, this like, here I am in this great, deep, wide ocean that is my being. And sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, and sometimes there I am, like reaching for the stars and reaching for the moon and flying with my sails full. And I think it's really just, as the lyrics say, like acknowledging that this being human. I think in that moment that I wrote it, it was like really coming to a very peaceful, beautiful place of acceptance with all of it, and learning to let go of the idea that we're supposed to be all the time holding it together and supposed to be the whole time sailing our ship. Like sometimes we're drowning, and that's what we're learning, and that's the medicine. And sometimes we're flying, and that's the moment, and that's the medicine of that. And to be in a surrender, to kind of let go, because of that trust ultimately that we're in the hands of the gods, right? And when we can lean back into that trust, comes such a deep acceptance. And with the deep acceptance, then even when we're drowning in the ocean and drowning in the water and struggling and suffering, when we can trust, somehow even right now I'm in the hands of the gods, and I'm held in this, and teaching me and this is growing me. And the ease can come, right? Like through acceptance. It's, yeah.
What is your biggest fear nowadays?
My biggest fear. I think it's probably, I'm afraid of what I see, of the darkness I see in the world. Like, I don't, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I have my personal fears, but in this moment that you ask me what I feel most afraid of is to look at the darkness that humanity is capable of doing, and especially what humanity is capable of doing to one another. When I see the suffering and the corruption and the lies and the intensity of that is, it's very, very scary for me.
I feel this sensibility really with animals. For me, I don't understand how we can make pain with animals. There is something like, for me, animals could be love. When you see, I lost my cat last year, and it was like 15 amazing years with her. It was just so great, and just I don't understand when people are aggressive with animal. It touched me really deeply. And what is for you happiness?
That's a big question. What I feel when you ask me is a place inside of me that is beyond my kind of humanness. And when I say humanness, I mean like my human story, you know, my emotions from my life and my struggles and my pain and my trauma and my this, you know, that when I feel like what is happiness, I kind of come home to a place deep in my heart that feels like some essence, you know, the essence of really who I am, who we are, our soul and the light of our soul, and whatever it is that we believe that is the essence of this mystery of life. You know, some people may say God, or some people may say Great Spirit, or for me, it doesn't need a name. It's not important what it's called. It's a place that can witness and be with all of the things in this world that can bring unhappiness, and all the things in my own life that can make me feel unhappiness, and knowing that there's a place beyond that, deeper than that, and there's a stillness and there's a quiet and a spirit, a connection to a spirit that's bigger than myself, the spirit of life. That for me is happiness.
And are you happy nowadays?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Like, if I'm really honest, I struggle a lot with being human and just navigating my struggles and learning to kind of leave behind the programming of my trauma of my childhood. Like, had a rough time as a child, and it's really a lot. I'm in a process of really going very deep with that, and particularly on a kind of physical level, you know, the memory. I feel I did a lot of the emotional work, but the memory that's held in the body and the nervous system that can create patterns that are not really serving me. I don't like, to say it in a way without going very deeply into that. So I feel like I'm on a good path, and I have good tools, and I'm happy to say that I feel like I know happiness, but I wouldn't say I'm happy, like fully happy in my life and in myself. Not yet.
You are in a world tour nowadays. You are traveling all the time. You were in Iceland yesterday. You just arrived in London. You're going to Brazil soon. You were in Paris, you went to Barcelona. You're just moving around. Do you find happiness traveling? For the tour, I mean.
I would say for fulfillment, I find it very fulfilling because I feel that I'm really doing part of what I came here to do. And I say that of like, I don't think it's the only thing I came here to do, to be on tour. I mean, I'm a mother and I love being at home, and we live on the land and there's animals, and I love also, I love to also not be on tour. I love to be at home. But there is a part of me that knows that that's very important, that I share my music and I go out there and I do that. So I guess I could say it fulfills me, and that contributes to some sense of happiness that maybe if I wasn't doing it, I might feel an empty place, that's not being filled.
What do you feel when you're in front of the people and you listen to the people who are really like it's because I saw you in Paris, and it's like a ceremony in a way. You're just here, you're singing, playing with your guitar, and you're speaking and you're sharing things. It's really like a communion with the audience. And people are singing, even if you don't understand what they're saying. Sometimes it's just like word or something. And what does it feel for you to be in front of all these people every night?
It's kind of wordless. It's that like wordless feeling, that same kind of feeling when, I don't know, maybe when you're watching a incredible sunset or some beautiful view of nature, where that it just takes you to very, very present, alive from the inside kind of feeling. Of course, when I'm there, I'm not really thinking. I'm so present, and I'm so just where I am and connected to the source that from where my music comes from, which is me, and which is also, forces bigger than myself. So it just feels kind of right. It's like it doesn't really have an emotion or it's not so human experience. It's like connected to a powerful force of, that is me, and is also whatever it is that's coming through me, however we want to understand that. I don't even want to really understand it. I don't want to claim that I know what is going on there. I just know that it feels aligned. Like my soul is aligned. I'm aligned with my soul in those moments.
Before, could you have ever imagined to be a singer, to be Ayla Schafer and traveling and making album?
No, definitely not. No, I couldn't have imagined. No, and I still, after every concert, I'm still like, wow, I just, it's just amazing. It's just amazing that people come and that people know the songs, and that these songs that are so personal to me, they come in the most private, like when I write music, no one can be in the house. Even if my partner's in the house, I can't write. It's like, I need to be so alone with myself and so alone with the spirit. And then that's what I'm sharing. And then those songs become part of people's personal reality. Like that, from what people share, they become very important, deep part of their life and their process. And this for me is, I can never understand. It's a mystery. It's magic. It's so beautiful. And ultimately what it gives me is this just reminder of this great truth that we are not separated from each other. There isn't really like me and my pain and my suffering and my journey and my process, and like if we can be connected through our process, it's because we are connected through our shared humanity, right? Like through our shared experience. And that's what I get from it. Like we are so much more connected than we realize.
It's like the power of to be together when people are together and sharing the same value or the same emotion, it gives like a strong, something really strong in the room. And it could be a ceremony, it could be a retreat when there are people, or it could be a show. It could be a Beyonce show, you see, with this good energy. What do you think about Beyonce?
I have to be honest, I don't really know much about her.
Okay.
But I think the very little I know, I'm like, yeah, you know.
You listen? Maybe
I haven't listened
music?
to her in so many years. No, to be honest, I don't actually.
What do you listen?
I've got no idea who's famous right now.
Who do you listen to?
Who do I listen to? I listen to a lot of world music, actually, at the moment. I really love listening to music from cultures where the root, the traditional root, is very alive. This is something that I am searching for, I think, you know, within my own life and my own process, is like my ancestral roots, my lineage, the memory that I feel in my bones. Like I'm looking for that, and the music has an amazing way of carrying this memory, right? Like it's like because it's literally passed down from person to person. So I listen to like a lot of Gaelic. I've been listening to Scottish Gaelic music, like old recordings and old songs, and I love music from Africa and the Kora, and yeah. And then there are a few artists that I listen to, like, who do I listen to? Ayla Nerio or Maria Stark. I don't know if you know these amazing women. I listen to a lot of women. I've got to confess, actually. Often female voices, unless it's the traditional indigenous music.
It's funny because yesterday I arrived in London, and like I told you before, I used to live in London, and for me it's London. It has a beautiful place in my heart, and I went back to the old flat where I used to live to see. It's been 15 years ago, so it's a long time ago, and I was listening to you, and I was crying on the way, like, wow. With all the things happened since I was living there. And also it was such a beautiful period for me at this time. So, you know, different feelings going on with nostalgia and everything. And after I went to the Tate Modern, and I put Beyonce. And it's so different, but I like the way that I can listen Ella Schafer, I can listen Beyonce. And this is a beautiful thing in life. It's to like you say, you don't have to be put in a box. And to be like different, listen different music, to travel around the world, to see the different culture, and to connect with all the world the world gives to us. And yeah, because this is the world who gives to us. We are just small people trying to live an experience during a time on this beautiful earth, in a way.
Yeah, we follow that which feels good, right? Like what is it inside of us that is guiding us? What is the feeling from which we are navigating our life? How do we know what it is that we want to do, what work we want to do, who we fall in love with? How do we know what music we want to listen to? Like, what is that inside of us that goes, I like this music, or I don't like this music? Music is amazing because people, it's the same with taste. Like, music is a bit like taste. It's very fast that someone goes, I like this or I don't like this. That's certainly my experience, and from what I've witnessed, people don't go like, do I like this? It's kind of like yes or no, or like yes, I love it, or I kind of like it, but you know. And what is it? How do we know? It's something that just feels good, or it feels right. It may not even feel good. It just feels right. And that's also how we're navigating our life. No, like that. It's something unexplainable, and I believe the more that we can the more that we can trust our own feelings and trust our body, our body wisdom that is in relationship with our mind, and the more that our mind can be aligned with our body wisdom. I say body wisdom because I feel like our soul and our heart is more communicating through our body wisdom, and our body wisdom is also just our feelings, our emotions, like how we feel. This is our guidance, and then our mind can be on board. But when we're stuck too much and unfortunately our education system, I think, is just training people to listen to the mind and follow the mind, and this can be very confusing.
Yesterday, when I was walking, listening to you and Beyonce,
I love that.
It's for me like a reconnection to myself in a way, and just I'm not listening a podcast, or I'm not trying to. I called my mother, but it's another thing. It's just I was like doing almost with the flow where I want to go now, what I want to experience in London. I'm here. What can I do just to follow my heart? What is for you like a way to reconnect with yourself when sometimes you're too busy? What is the best way to just I need to take a break and to reconnect with myself? What would you do for that?
There's a few things I would do, but probably the number one most powerful is to go and be in the nature. We live somewhere where you don't need to get in a car to go into the nature. You just walk out. We're right on the national park, the last house in the middle of nowhere. So we can walk from my house out into the forest and onto the big open space where there's rivers and wild horses. Very, very beautiful. And I live there because for me, it's perhaps the most important thing for me is to have that contact with nature, because it gives me so much. All my other tools, like sitting and singing or praying or doing my body practices, making music, like if I'm in a really bad place, then I can't even reach those. So going outside, moving my body, going really for a walk, being with the elements, really being with the water and being with the earth and climbing the rocks, and this just brings me home to myself, because it brings me home to the earth. And when I feel that, I can't really be confused anymore. It's like everything makes sense for me when I'm close with the earth, and when I can really feel her and feel the land and feel the spirit of the nature.
Is it easy for you to be in London like that, in cities?
No, it's not easy for me. I've never lived in a city. It's never made sense for me to do so. So I don't last very long. I'm a bit like a plant that starts going. And so is my partner. We're really the same, I can do it for a few days and enjoy, but I need to be in the wild.
It's I realize how I get older, I want to experiment the nature more. That I feel more tired in city, and I need to go in a park, or when I go home to go walking to the beach, or I really feel it. And I'm thinking about it because yesterday night I saw one of my ex. It's not like I have plenty, but it's just my ex when I was living in London. So it's been 15 years, so it's a long time ago, and I realize he's becoming really spiritual, and we were not spiritual at all. At all. We were partying at this time. And he told me that he's making like cacao ceremony because he was going through a bad situation, like depression. And the cacao ceremony opened his heart. It was crazy to speak with him about it because, believe me, 15 years ago, it was really not this kind of conversation that we had. What do you think about cacao? Because it's been like 6 months. Few people in my relation are trying this. Have you ever tried, and what do you think about it?
Yes, I have tried cacao, and I've been in various different ceremonies because there's so many. It's becoming a kind of like a trend, a bit of a new trend, and I would say a positive trend. And I don't know that much about it, but I definitely know that there are more traditional roots to it, ways of working with it, from I think from Guatemala, the Mayan people, and they have their very specific ways. But of course, people are experimenting, and I wouldn't say I personally have had an experience that has felt really strong and important for me. In fact, it's very strong. I find it. I'm quite careful with it, but what I feel is anything that is bringing people into their hearts and helping people to just be more who we really are and shed our skins and be more real together, and helping people to gather in a way where they go like, we don't need to drink, we don't need to smoke, we don't need to take drugs. Like, let's actually be together and feel ourselves and feel one another and sing with one another. The kind of things that happen in cacao ceremonies is often a lot of singing, there's a lot of silence, there's a lot of just really being, creating a space for people to connect to themselves. And I just think we just need more of this. And the beauty of cacao compared to other plant medicines, like more psychedelic plant medicines, the beauty of cacao is it's so much more possible to just do in your daily life. Creates more of a bridge for people who maybe be too afraid, or it's not right for them to go and drink ayahuasca and have a very intense experience. It's not right for everyone to have intense experiences. Not everyone, depending on what we're healing, we have our nervous systems are so dysregulated from our life, from our trauma, from our culture. This is like, it's very strong to go on that way. The cacao is like more the soft, gentle way that can be integrated much more easy. So I think it's amazing, as long as it's being done, as long as people really are respecting, remembering that it's not another substance to abuse, right? Like,
I might try. It's been like I'm going through a chaos this year. I broke up with my boyfriend after 9 years. I lost my cat. I move on. It's just like, my God, I'm the sailor in the tempest, for sure. And I try to reconnect to myself and to love myself. I don't love myself at all. I'm feeling old. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling bad. All the bad thing, all the thoughts in my mind. Do you love yourself nowadays?
Yeah.
How do you do?
I've done a lot of therapy, and I still do a lot of therapy. Years and years and years of being guided and being supported and being held in that safety that a relationship can give, with the tools and with their understanding. I would say this work that I've been doing, and particularly through the body, I've been doing a lot of somatic experience, which is like healing through the body and through the nervous system, and really just bringing my nervous system out of this manic fight-flight mode, which is impossible to feel if you love yourself, because if you understand nature and you understand why we have that programming in us that makes us go into fight or flight. In fight or flight, it's not important that you can feel that you love yourself. It's about survival. It's about like, I need to fucking survive right now. But even then, if you look at it, you go, that's coming from love. Like, I really truly begin to understand that everything, even the voices that beat us up and the voices of doubt and the stories and the depression and the stuff that can feel so heavy and dark and dense and so unloving, even the habits, like the unloving habits, Like I've never had an addictive habit. My struggles have been in other ways, more maybe a depressive tendency. So I don't know addiction so well, but even that I can understand. Ultimately, it's a place in us that is trying to make it easier by not feeling, by numbing ourselves, by taking us away from actually going to the pain. Like, because we think that by avoiding the pain can be the most loving thing for ourselves. But through regulating my nervous system and through being in spaces where I'm held to really feel myself, and this includes a lot of ceremonies with plant medicine, where I'm just go very, very deeply to meet my wounds and my pain and the places where I'm not loving myself, through understanding why. I think this has been my way. I don't believe that we can just say, okay, 1, 2, 3, start loving myself. Like we have to understand, right, what is playing out. What are those patterns? What happened? Where in my life did I learn to not be safe? Did I learn to not honor myself and not love myself and not care about myself and have these patterns? Where did I learn to think like that? Like, if we follow those roots, it can go very, very deep. And I think the majority of people, we've had many, many reasons in our life, and our childhood, probably mostly, it comes from our childhood, can come from our ancestry, can come from being in our mother's womb. We carry a lot, and we don't learn in our society that that's important to take care of. We learn that other things are more important, like having the latest phone or whatever, and making money and achieving and actually doing things which are just really damaging our ability to just be. I think the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is just be very, very honestly with who we are and what we carry and what we're feeling. I think being loving with ourselves doesn't necessarily always feel good. It can sometimes feel devastating, but that can be the most loving thing, is like, I'm going to just feel what is difficult for me right now with love and acceptance as much as is possible, without judging, with kindness and softness, and listen to ourselves.
Oh. I will take note from that. We arrive at the end. I have 2 final questions of the podcast. It's like a signature question. I have a question of I don't know if it's good in English, but it's Auntie Jacqueline. Auntie, like the family member.
Yeah, auntie.
Auntie Jacqueline.
Okay.
Is the name Jacqueline, and Auntie Jacqueline is always, she knows what the people, the guests that I have on my podcast. So she knew about you, and she was wondering about, because she's like, she has children, she has a job that she doesn't like, she has rent to pay, but she wants to be a singer. And she doesn't have time, and she's saying, it's always easy for the other, but for me, it's not possible, and it's too complicated. And I have my children, and I have my job, and I have my electricity to pay. What advice do you give to Auntie Jacqueline to go and maybe to give the energy to start the dream that she had? Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear. Yeah, I guess first to say, like, I really honor that that reality, especially if you have children, that is hard. Time is not abundant when we have kids. Energy is not abundant. We are prioritizing looking after these little human beings, making the money to do that, and then life can feel totally full up. So I really honor that place that is like, it's not possible for me. And at the same time, to like flip that over, I think the first is to really look very honestly at like what stories play out in that voice that says, I can't do that. It's not possible for me. Because I would imagine that if that is looked into deeper, there will be, like we were just speaking about, like there will be roots that can go deeper than the truth of her reality. You know, that is real, her reality. And these stories that we carry, you know, I also carry those, like the I can't, I don't trust, like it's not safe, I can't take a chance, I'm the I can't narrative, to kind of really go there and like look underneath at what is really real and what is rooted in the past, and to kind of tend to those things. And I think my biggest advice would be, like, if she can just commit herself to honoring her music and honoring her voice and sharing it in a way that doesn't create stress. You know, maybe it's like recording her music, because this can be adapted into your life. You know, you make a day or 2 days in that month, get someone to look after the children, just like really make a commitment. I'm going to record this one song, or I'm going to record this 2 songs or 3 songs, or whatever feels realistic, and just keep feeding the music and feeding the song and feeding the source. And maybe it's too big of a step to go like, how do I quit my job and how do I make money from music? The truth is, it takes a long time. You know, I was singing and sharing my songs since I was 16 years old. I'd say it's only maybe in the past 4 years that I'm able to live from it and not do any other work. It's like, it's a process and it's a journey. But what was always most important for me was, I'm making music because I need to make music, because that's what I live from. This is my oxygen. This is my water. I don't have a choice. And I think that is the most important. And if that is nourished, things will open. You know, it may not be that she can completely leave her job and that she'll just 100% be living off music, or it might be. But what is more important is, why does she, you know, Jacqueline, why do you love to sing? Like, take care that you are nourished in your music, and share it in places that feel safe. Share it with your friends, share it in circles, invite people to a concert in your home where you even just have 10 people, because you will feel fulfilled in doing that. And if it's meant to open for you, it will open, and you go with that trust, and you go knowing that you are singing for you, and you are meeting that need that's important. And that's, you know, I pray and I hope and I would wish that would carry her.
Yeah, I like it. And my last question, and it's a question of the podcast, but I didn't know. I didn't know the word in English, so I had to write it. What is the biggest things you've ever dared? Dared? You pronounce it?
Dared, yeah.
Dared. It's French. It's oser, and I found the word oser in French really beautiful, but in English it doesn't sound beautiful. Dared. So, well, this is the question of my podcast, so I ask, even if I don't like the word in English, but whatever, the meaning, it's the most important.
What is the biggest thing I've ever dared to do? This is the question.
Yes.
I need to take a moment to just... I think have a child.
Oh.
Actually, I think that felt like the scariest, you know, no going back. Like everything else, I did big crazy things, that step to South America, or, you know, I was quite easy for me to be wild and courageous and do things that other people would always say to me, God, you're so brave that you did that. And I'd go like, it felt so easy. Like some things that other people felt would be daring were not, it didn't feel like that for me. Having a child, I was the most terrified ever, because you cannot, it's not like, oh, I'll try it and then like if it doesn't work I'll go back home, or like it's the biggest change of life and the biggest transformation and the hardest thing I've ever done and the most beautiful beyond words blessing, you know, that love that it brings. But it has shaken my being probably deeper than anything else, any other ceremony, any other big healing process. It has confronted me to face myself and continues, and that's the other part of it. It continues to just be very, very big.
You are the second woman who give me this answer.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I don't know. I had only a cat. But I can imagine to have a child could be, like you say, really transforming, and it's transforming you every day for the rest of your life, I guess. So. Thank you very much, Ayla, for this conversation. It was lovely.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time that you took because you have a show tonight in London. And after you go again and again. So I'm really happy that I meet you here today. Thank you for all the music that you're doing. So obviously in the comment, people can find Spotify or your website also. If they want to see more about you, discover, I will push them to discover anyway because this is fantastic. And I think when you want to take care of yourself and have a moment, listening your music is amazing. And even though walking around London could be amazing just to listen to you too. So whatever you want to listen Ayla Schafer, do it because that's great. And I have to tell you, I find you so natural, and you know, there is something with you that I really like. Yeah, I wanted to say that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and see you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.